Hello, uh, James here. I was just going to make another video. This time I'm going to a different direction. Um, it's, this video is going to be primary on African American, like most my videos have. But this time it's going to start out really rough, but it's going to turn out very positive in the end. And what it's display is that how black people had their own cities and towns. But even though that they went when it started out, it was horrific. But in the end, it shows that what the black Americans can do when they put their mind together, and it's something that when it comes to the black men and women of America, and when they come on board, how this can happen. So I'm gonna give you a little history. The first one's gonna be kind of depressing, but bear with it's gonna just bear with it. I think the first one I'm gonna call. Let's go to the 1700s. This video is according to the narrative. It's not that long.
So, it's 1921. You're in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and literally the city is being destroyed to pieces. But not by any of your neighbors or constituents or any of the people of the community you know. By a group of actual angry people. This pretty much is the foreground of the layout of the story for the 1921 Tulsa Massacre. It's a little known covered topic in United States history. However, I have seen a resurgence in the timeline of event of things. But Tulsa not only was not the only all-black flourishing town of that time to be destroyed, it was one of many flourishing towns at that time, and from what we'll cover in this video, from before this time. So back to Tulsa. Basically, I feel like with a lot of these towns, we're hearing of the massacres and the great events that happened, of course, that destroyed a lot of these cities, which is necessary. But I do believe a lot of the information that we are given kind of tells us a piece of the story. So, when I speak of Tulsa, Oklahoma, we all can relate to, if anyone knows at least a little bit of the history of Tulsa, we can relate to the 1921 massacre. We can safely say that a generous amount of us associate Tulsa, Oklahoma to the year of 1921. But what day can we say it started? How long was Tulsa, Oklahoma thriving as a city before the massacre in 1921? And here we are today. So, what will be covered today are all the cities I was able to easily locate and find that were black owned and created cities in the 1700s. This will be part one of a 4-part series. Of course, this will be very brief. I'm not going to go into detail on every single city as of right now. This is more or less a brief introduction as to what these cities are named, where they are, more than likely what happened to them, and what year they were founded. I will be covering these cities individually sometime in the future because, man, some of this history get deep, dark, and bleak. And what I can say is I have noticed several reoccurring themes. So without any further ado, let's get into it. Oh yeah, wait, side note, I will be going in order from the year it was founded. All the cities. So first on the list is Pocahontas Island, Virginia. It's a peninsula located on the north side of the Appomattox River of Virginia. It's houses. And about 20 years later, in 1752, it became a town and was named Pocahontas. Yeah, the history is pretty long here for this one, and it becomes really dark. However, it does eventually become Petersburg, Virginia, and around 1882, that's when the government decides to step in, and the state legislature moved a mental asylum facility to the Forum and developed a campus there. Before I go any farther, I need to really step back because I just realized I didn't set the scene here. That mental asylum was extremely important to this situation here because let me set the clock right now. So it's 1700s, the mid 1700s to be exact. There's Pocahontas Island that has just sprung up in 1732. Now, 1758, we have this rise of the study of phrenology, okay? Wherein as your skull, the shape and the size of it has 100,000,000% to do with who you are, your mental abilities and capabilities, your character, literally almost every aspect of your life. Your skull, the shape of it, literally determines who you are, right? This study is on the rise. It's booming around this time now. And now we have not too long after the establishment of Pocahontas Island, we'll give or take a few years, quite a few years actually, you have the placement of a mental asylum in the vicinity. Okay, I'm just going to sit that right there for Pocahontas Island. Alright, so down in Florida now, in 1738, we have Fort Moose. Now, Fort Moose was also pretty interesting as the dates of establishment was heavily speculated on. Well, that went terribly awry. Fort Mose, M-O-S-E. Just had to do a correction right there. But the story for Fort Mose goes, according to the narrative, in 1687, a group of runaway slaves, 8 men, 2 women, and a 3-year-old nursing child, and pretty much went there to seek asylum from the Spanish government. And from there, all the way well into the 1700s, that's pretty much what slaves or runaway slaves or black people did, according again to the narrative. And it thrived all the way until it was swallowed by a marsh. Yeah, the whole city, the fort, the entire existence of place, swallowed by a marsh over time. Side note, according to the narrative, after the French and Indian War, it said that Spain transferred Florida to Britain in the 1763 Treaty of Paris. And with that treaty, pretty much everyone fled. Okay, that's Fort Mose in Florida. Gonna skip a few years and head right on over to 1786 in Springtown, New Jersey. So, with Springtown, as per usual with all of these cases, if not most of these cases, a tragic ending. So, according to the narrative, Springtown formed after the Manumission Act of 1786, in which basically the Quakers sold some land to what they call free blacks of that time. Again, according to the narrative. And from there, we have the establishment, Springtown. But basically, according to the narrative, over time, everyone that lived in Springtown gradually moved out in search for larger cities or these industrial-style jobs of the time. Yeah, so again, when I do these videos in depth on these cities, I will definitely go into a lot of detail about the then and now of these cities and how they got to be what they are now. But I would like to point out that around this time in the 1880s, eugenics is booming, and so is forced sterilization. So, yeah. So next on the list is Mossville, Louisiana. And this particular city was established in 1790. Yeah, this city since I want to say the 90s has been just plagued and just devastated by these massive companies that are just polluting the air and the water. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, there's Mossville, Louisiana, the all-black town established in 1790. Then we look to my immediate left, and I'm going with Parting Ways, Massachusetts. I always say Massachusetts wrong. Parting Ways, Massachusetts, in 1792. So, this particular city was founded on 94 acres of land by, according to the narrative, 4 former slaves who fought in the American Revolutionary War. The city that was granted and was used and was thriving is now literally a cemetery. So, yeah, in Plymouth, Massachusetts. It's no longer Parting Ways, it's now Plymouth, Massachusetts. And here you can find the gravesite from where the city of Parting Ways, the black established city, in 1790 was established. Alright, and we're gonna go ahead and look over to the right now at Harbor Island, Maine in 1794. So this island remained in existence and occupants for a good while and did pretty good all the way until 1912 when the state decided to come in and evict everyone and began to relocate some of the people to the Pineland Center for the Feeble-Minded. Again, eugenics was definitely running rampant around this particular time. Another video definitely on its way. And now today, Harbor Island looks like this. Kind of looks a little abandoned. So yeah, that's it for this video for the most part. I was able to give a brief overview of these 7 cities that were created by people of color that are known as black cities that were established all in the 1700s, beginning in 1732. The earliest reference I was able to easily, quickly, access without even trying. I do find the black establishment in 1732 interesting, primarily due to 1776. Yeah, in the next few days I should have the next list up, which are 21 different cities that are now all spanning from the 1800s to the 1850s. But yeah, right, just tell me what you guys think. I don't know, have you...
Pretty impressive, huh? That black people did that back then. Here's another one from a different content creator.
Everyone's got a dream.
It's in 1863.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the first entry in the Black Massacres series, where today we will be talking about the New York City draft riots of 1863. The New York City draft riots that lasted from July 13th to July 16th, 1863, sometimes referred to as the Manhattan Draft Riots and known at the time as Draft Week, were violent disturbances in lower Manhattan, widely regarded as the culmination of white working class discontent with new laws passed by Congress that year to draft men to fight in the ongoing American Civil War. The riots remain the largest civil and most racially charged urban disturbance in American history. According to Toby Joyce, the riot represented a civil war inside the Irish Catholic community in that mostly Irish American rioters confronted police while soldiers and pro-war politicians were also to a considerable extent from the local Irish immigrant community. President Abraham Lincoln diverted several regiments of militia and volunteer groups after the Battle of Gettysburg to control the city. The rioters were overwhelmingly Irish working-class men who did not want to fight in the Civil War and resented that wealthier men who could afford to pay a $300 equivalent to $6,600 as of 2021, though a typical laborer's wage was between $1 and $2 a day in 1863. Commutation fee to hire a substitute were spared from the draft. Initially intended to express anger at the draft, the protest turned into a race riot with white rioters attacking black people and violence throughout the city. The official death toll was listed at either 119 or 120 individuals. Conditions in the city were such that Major General John E. Wool, commander of the Department of the East, said on July 16 that martial law ought to be proclaimed, but I have not a sufficient force to enforce it. The military did not reach the city until the second day of rioting, by which time the mobs had ransacked or destroyed numerous public buildings, 2 Protestant churches, the homes of various abolitionists or sympathizers, many black homes, and the Colored Orphan Asylum at 44th Street and 5th Avenue, which was burned to the ground. The area's demographics changed as a result of the riot. Many black residents left Manhattan permanently, with many moving to Brooklyn. By 1865, the black population had fallen below 11,000 for the first time since 1820. New York's economy was tied to the South. By 1822, nearly half of its exports were cotton shipments. In addition, upstate textile mills processed cotton and manufacturing. New York had such strong business connections to the South that of January 7, 1861, Mayor Fernando Wood, a Democrat, called on the city's Board of Aldermen to declare the city's independence from Albany and from Washington. He said it would have the whole and united support of the southern states. When the Union entered the war, New York City had many sympathizers with the South. The city was also a continuing destination of immigrants. Since the 1840s, most were from Ireland and Germany. In 1860, nearly 25% of the New York City population was German-born, and many did not speak English. During the 1840s and 1850s, journalists had published sensational accounts directed at white working class, dramatizing the evils of interracial socializing, relationships, and marriages. Reformers joined the effort. Newspapers carried derogatory portrayals of black people and ridiculed black aspirations for equal rights in voting, education, and employment. The Democratic Party's Tammany Hall, political machine had been working to enroll immigrants as U.S. citizens so they could vote in local elections and had strongly recruited Irish. In March 1863, with the war continuing, Congress passed the Enrollment Act to establish a draft for the first time. As more troops were needed in New York City and other locations, new citizens learned that they were expected to register for the draft to fight for their new country. Black men were excluded from the draft as they were largely not considered citizens, and wealthier white men could pay for substitutes. New York political offices, including the mayor, were historically held by Democrats before the war, but the election of Abraham Lincoln as president had demonstrated the rise in Republican political power nationally. Newly elected New York City Republican Mayor George Opdyke was mired in profiteering scandals in the months leading up to the riots. The Emancipation Proclamation of January 1863 alarmed much of the white working class in New York, who feared that freed slaves would migrate to the city and add further competition to the labor market. There had already been tensions between black and white workers since the 1850s, particularly at the docks, with free blacks and immigrants competing for low-wage jobs in the city. In March 1863, white longshoremen refused to work with black laborers and rioted, attacking 200 black men. There were reports of rioting in Buffalo, New York, and certain other cities, but the first drawing of draft numbers on July 11, 1863, occurred peaceably in Manhattan. The second drawing was held on Monday, July 13, 1863, 10 days after the Union victory at Gettysburg. At 10 a.m., a furious crowd of around 500, led by the volunteer firemen of Engine Company 33, known as the Black Joke, attacked the Assistant 9th District Provost Marshal's office at 3rd Avenue and 47th Street, where the draft was taking place. The crowd threw large paving stones through windows, burst through the doors, and set the building ablaze. When the fire department responded, rioters broke up their vehicles. Others killed horses that were pulling streetcars and smashed the cars. To prevent others of the city of being notified of the riot, they cut telegraph lines. Since the New York State Militia had been sent to assist Union troops at Gettysburg, the local New York Metropolitan Police Department was the only force on hand to try to suppress the riots. Police Superintendent John Kennedy arrived at the site on Monday to check on the situation. Although he was not in uniform, people in the mob recognized him and attacked him. Kennedy was left nearly unconscious, his face bruised and cut, his eye injured, his lips swollen, and his hand cut with a knife. He had been beaten to a mass of bruises and blood all over his body. Police drew their clubs and revolvers and charged the crowd, but were overpowered. The police were badly outnumbered and unable to quell the riots, but they kept the rioting out of Lower Manhattan, below Union Square. Inhabitants of the Bloody 6th Ward around the South Street Seaport and Five Points areas refrained from involvement in the rioting. The 19th Company 1st Battalion U.S. Army Invalid Corps, which was part of the Provost Guard, tried to disperse the mob with a volley of gunfire, but were overwhelmed and suffered over 14 injured, with one soldier missing, believed to have been killed. The Bull's Head Hotel on 44th Street, which refused to provide alcohol to the rioters, was burned. The mayor's residence on 5th Avenue was spared by words of Judge George Gardner Bernard, and the crowd of about 500 turned into another location of pillage. The 8th and 5th District police stations and other buildings were attacked and set on fire. Other targets included the office of the New York Times. The mob was turned back at the Times office by staff manning Gatling guns, including Times founder Henry Jarvis Raymond. Fire engine companies responded, but some firefighters were sympathetic to the rioters because they had also been drafted on Saturday. The New York Tribune was attacked, being looted and burned, not until police arrived and extinguished the flames, dispersing the crowd. Later in the afternoon, authorities shot and killed a man as a crowd attacked the Armory at 2nd Avenue and 21st Street. The mob broke all the windows with paving stones ripped from the street. The mob beat, tortured, and or killed numerous black civilians, including one man who was attacked by a crowd of 400 with clubs and paving stones, then lynched, hanging from a tree, and set alight. The Colored Orphan Asylum at 43rd Street and 5th Avenue, a symbol of white charity to blacks and of black upward mobility, that provided shelter for 233 children, was attacked by a mob at around 4 p.m. A mob of several thousand, including many women and children, looted the building of its food and supplies. However, the police were able to secure the orphanage for enough time to allow the orphans to escape before the building burned down. Throughout the areas of rioting, mobs attacked and killed numerous black civilians and destroyed their known homes and businesses, such as James McCune Smith's Pharmacy at 93rd West Broadway, believed to be the first owned by a black man in the United States. Near the Midtown docks, tensions brewing since the mid-1850s broiled over. As recently as March 1863, white employers had hired black longshoremen, with whom many white men refused to work. Rioters went into the streets in search of all the Negro porters, cartmen, and laborers to attempt to remove all evidence of a black and interracial social life from the area near the docks. White dock workers attacked and destroyed brothels, dance halls, boarding houses, and tenements that catered to black people. Mobs stripped the clothing off of white owners of these businesses. Heavy rain fell on Monday night, helping to abate the fires and sending rioters home. But the crowds returned the next day. Rioters burned down the home of Abby Gibbons, a prison reformer and the daughter of abolitionist Isaac Hopper. They also attacked white amalgamationists, such as Ann Derrickson and Ann Martin, two white women who were married to black men, and Mary Burke, a white prostitute who catered to black men. Governor Horatio Seymour arrived on Tuesday and spoke at City Hall, where he attempted to assuage the crowd by proclaiming that the Conscription Act was unconstitutional. General John E. Wool, commander of the Eastern District, brought approximately 800 soldiers and Marines in from forts in New York Harbor, West Point, and the Brooklyn Navy Yard. He ordered the militias to return to New York. The situation improved July 15th when Assistant Provost Marshal General Robert Nugent received word from his superior officer Colonel James Barnett Fry to postpone the draft. As this news appeared in newspapers, some rioters stayed home, but some of the militias began to return and use harsh measures against the remaining rioters. The rioting spread to Brooklyn and Staten Island. Order began to be restored on July 16th. The New York State Militia and some federal troops were returned to New York, including the 152nd New York Volunteers, the 26th Michigan Volunteers, the 27th Indiana Volunteers, and the 7th Regiment New York State Militia from Frederick, Maryland, after a forced march. In addition, the governor sent in the 74th, 65th Regiments of the New York State Militia, which had not been in federal service, and a section of the 20th Independent Battery, New York Volunteer Artillery from Fort Schuyler in Throgs Neck. The New York State Militia units were the first to arrive. There were several thousand militia and federal troops in the city. A final confrontation occurred in the evening near Gramercy Park. According to Adrian Cook, 12 people died on this last day of the riots and skirmishes between rioters, the police, and the army. The New York Times reported on Thursday that plug uglies and blood tubs, gang members from Baltimore as well as Schuylkill Rangers, and other rowdies of Philadelphia had come to New York during the unrest to participate in the riots alongside the Dead Rabbits and Macro Villers. The Times editorialized that the scoundrels cannot afford to miss the golden opportunity of indulging their brutal natures, and at the same time serving their colleagues, the Copperheads, and the sympathizers. The exact death toll during the New York draft riots is unknown, but according to historian James M. McPherson, 119 or 120 people were killed. Violence by longshoremen against black men was especially fierce in the docks area. West of Broadway, below 26, all was quiet at 9 o'clock last night. A crowd was at the corner of 7th Avenue and 27th Street at the time. This was the scene of the hanging of a Negro in the morning, and another at 6 o'clock in the evening. The body of the one hung in the morning presented a shocking appearance at the station house. His fingers and toes had been sliced off, and there was scarcely an inch of his flesh which was not gashed. Late in the afternoon, a Negro was dragged out of his house in West 27th Street, beaten down on the sidewalk, pounded in a horrible manner, and then hanged to a tree. In all, 11 black men were hanged over 5 days. Among the murdered blacks was the 7-year-old nephew of Bermudian First Sergeant Robert John Simmons of the 54th Massachusetts Infantry Regiment, whose account of fighting in South Carolina, written on the approach to Fort Wagner, July 18, 1863, was to be published in the New York Tribune on December 23, 1863, Simmons having died in August of wounds received in the attack on Fort Wagner. The most reliable estimates indicate at least 2,000 people were injured. Herbert Asbury, the author of the 1928 book Gangs of New York, upon which the 2002 film was based, puts the figure much higher, at 2,000 killed and 8,000 wounded, a number that some dispute. Total property damage was about $1 to $5 million, which is equivalent to $16.9 million to $84.7 million in 2020. The city treasury later indemnified 1/4 of the amount. Historian Samuel Eliot Morrison wrote that the riots were equivalent to a Confederate victory. 50 buildings, including 2 Protestant churches and the Colored Orphan Asylum, were burned to the ground. 4,000 federal troops had to be pulled out of the Gettysburg campaign to suppress the riots. Troops that could have aided in pursuing the battered Army of Northern Virginia as it retreated out of Union territory. During the riots, landlords fearing the mob would destroy their buildings drove black residents from their homes. As a result of the violence against them, hundreds of black people left New York, including physician James McClune Smith and his family, moving to Williamsburg, Brooklyn, or New Jersey. The white elite in New York organized to provide relief to black riot victims, helping them find new work and homes. The Union League Club and the Committee of Merchants for the Relief of Colored People provided nearly $40,000 to 2,500 victims of the riots. By 1865, the black population in the city had dropped to under 10,000, the lowest since 1820. The white working class riots had changed the demographics of the city. The white residents exerted their control in the workplace. They became unequivocally divided from the black population. On August 19th, the government resumed the draft in New York. It was completed within 10 days without further incident. Fewer men were drafted than had been feared by the white working class. Of the 750,000 selected nationwide for conscription, only about 45,000 were sent into active duty. While the rioting mainly involved the white working class, middle, and upper class New Yorkers had split sentiments on the draft and use of federal power or martial law to enforce it. Many wealthy Democratic businessmen sought to have the draft declared unconstitutional. Democrats did not seek to have the draft declared unconstitutional, but they helped pay the commutation fees for those who were drafted. In December 1863, the Union League Club recruited more than 2,000 black soldiers, outfitted and trained them, honoring and sending men off with a parade through the city to the Hudson River docks in March 1864. A crowd of 100,000 watched the procession, which was led by police and members of the Union League Club. New York's support for the Union cause continued, however, grudgingly and gradually Southern sympathies declined in the city. New York banks eventually financed the Civil War, and the state's industries were more productive than those of the entire Confederacy. By the end of the war, more than 450,000 soldiers, sailors, and militia had enlisted from New York State, which was the most populous state at the time. A total of 46,000 military men from New York State had died during the war, more from disease than wounds, as was the typical in most combatants. That was a lot to retain and a lot to put out there as it pertains to this particular event right here. Well, that's going to conclude the first entry of the Black Massacre series, the New York Massacre of 1863, or the draft riots as they called it. I feel that a lot of the people that follow me who are from New York probably should know about this particular story, and if they don't, hey, this is a learning history lesson for all of us, much like it was with my previous series, so we all learning here together. But I cannot wait to see what y'all have to say about this down in the comment section.
And that's, now you see why black people in America want reparations. Now do you see, for those who object to reparations, that happened 1700s, 1800s. But even though, now I'm going to show you the positive side of what black people can go, of the blackest
What powers
cities.
your best life?
But they still
Pure
going to need
organic goodness.
reparations.
Then we've got you covered. Our new
It is time to finish our black and white series with the blackest cities in the United States. We actually might do countries, but I'm not sure yet. On that one, we might have to eliminate Africa and Scandinavia, because it's like one's going to be completely white almost, the other one's going to be almost completely black. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Anyway, I'm going to give you the same intros I did for the other videos, so we're all on the same page. I normally avoid race-related videos, but I had a bunch of requests for these. I wasn't comfortable with the subject, and I didn't want to create videos where the comment section would look like some kind of Klan rally. And I didn't want people crying that I was being racist just because I was talking about someone's race, or talking about race in general. It's not racist to talk about race. How you talk about race can be considered racist. Anyway, I had a long back and forth with one of my subscribers who happens to be a black gentleman, and he had a good point. He said I shouldn't worry about what people are saying in the comment section. He said if you're any kind of minority in this country, you already know who's out there on the internet. Then he quoted something I said in a video. He said, you could make a video about lime jello and someone would make it about race or politics. Which the politics one is 100% true. When we had that conversation, it made sense to me. So a couple months back, I made the most Asian states followed by the most Hispanic states. I kind of struggled with whether I should do the black and white thing, but I finally decided it was time. So today we're looking at the cities in the U.S. with the highest percentage of black or African American residents. Got it? Get it? Good. Let's take a look. Number 10, New Orleans, Louisiana. This one might surprise people that haven't spent a lot of time in New Orleans. I haven't spent a bunch of time in New Orleans, but I was surprised at this one. Not that it's on the list, that it wasn't higher on the list. The black community in New Orleans is strong, and they've got a long history in the Big Easy. I mean, the incredible food and the music that has come out of New Orleans is 99% of the time from the black community. The city of New Orleans has about 383,000 residents, with the entire metro area having about 1.2 million. When we did the Blackest States video, I brought up all the musicians that had come out of Louisiana, mostly New Orleans. That's where a lot of them came from. One group of people I forgot to say was the Neville Brothers. Extremely talented family there. You know, everyone focuses on Memphis when it comes to different types of music and stuff like that, in Nashville. In this part of the country, I think New Orleans is as important, if not more important, to music and musical history as those two. 57.02% of New Orleans' population is black or African American. Number 9, Wilmington, Delaware. Wilmington, Delaware is its own city, and it's a major city, but it's also part of the Philadelphia Camden metro area. Which, if you talk to most people, they'll just say it's part of the Philadelphia metro area. Most people like to forget Camden exists. But yeah, Wilmington is a pretty historic city. Wilmington, Delaware was built on the site of Fort Christina, which was the first Swedish settlement in North America. During the American Revolutionary War, only one small battle was fought in Delaware, but British troops occupied Wilmington shortly after the nearby Battle of Brandywine on September 11th, 1777. I almost said 1977 right there, and I'm sure that would have confused a lot of you, because everybody knows the only battle that was going on in 1977 was the battle to free the American public from the disco craze and polyester. Wilmington these days isn't the greatest city, but statistically they're kind of moving in the right direction. Crime's gone down a little bit over the last few years, the poverty rate has dropped, people are employed. You know, not giant numbers, they haven't made a complete turnaround, but they're heading in the right direction. 58.26% of Wilmington, Delaware's population is black or African American. Number 8, Augusta, Georgia. Augusta is on the east side of Georgia at the South Carolina border on the Savannah River. If you're into golf, you already know where this place is. It is home to the Augusta National Golf Course. I like Augusta. It's been a handful of years since I've been there. The stats don't look great, but it's still a beautiful town. Met a girl there named Hammy. I said, "Do you mean Sammy? Did you say Sammy? Shall know Hammy with an H." I was like, "How'd that happen?" She said she was funny when she was like a baby or, young, and the nickname kinda stuck. That's unfortunate. Augusta, Georgia's population is 201,000 residents. Their entire metro area has about 611,000, and 58.61% of the population is black or African American.
I have never lost one with Red Diversified.
No, I've
Very
never
interesting,
lost
ain't it?
Only made money with Red.
Number 7, Baltimore, Maryland. This one doesn't surprise me at all. What is surprising about Baltimore is they've kind of started to turn it around. This place has been dangerous and ugly for a long time, and a lot of tech companies have been moving there in the last couple of years. This is giving better jobs to the local community. Now, if the violent crime rate would go down a little bit, they'd be on the road to recovery. Baltimore, Maryland is just northeast of Washington, D.C., in case you don't know. Baltimore is where the great Cab Calloway grew up. He was born in Rochester, New York, but moved here when he was like 10 years old and was raised in Baltimore. Baltimore, for all its problems, has some amazingly beautiful parts. The city of Baltimore has a population of 576,000 residents, with the entire metro area having just under 3 million residents. And 60.42% of that population is black or African American. Number 6, Montgomery, Alabama. This one should be no shocker. This was the flashpoint for the civil rights movement in the 1950s and 60s. Side note, education is important, everyone, and here in the United States, we have so many people that are lacking in education. When we did the Black Estates video, I had someone email me about how could I forget that Martin Luther King was assassinated in Montgomery, Alabama. Now, if you're going to take the time out to email something, when you want to check your resources, just check and make sure you're right. I sent him a few links that confirmed that Martin Luther King was sadly assassinated on the balcony of the Lorraine Motel in Memphis, Tennessee. But Montgomery, Alabama is a very important city when it comes to the U.S. history. Montgomery, Alabama has a population of just over 200,000 with a metro area that's just under 400,000. And of that population, 61.91% is black or African American. Number 5, Memphis, Tennessee. Alright, now we get to look at the actual place Martin Luther King took his last breath. Now, I mentioned this when I've talked about Memphis before, but I think it's very interesting. James Earl Ray, the man who assassinated Dr. King, came out later on in life, which he spent his life in prison, came out and said it really wasn't him. He was just basically the fall guy. Well, he'd had some conversations with the King family and other people, and he kind of told a story, and towards the end there, they were saying he didn't do it, and this started all kinds of conspiracies. I mean, whenever someone's assassinated, there's always going to be conspiracies, but this just fueled the conspiracy train. Memphis is another city that is known for its music and black culture. Memphis has a population of 633,000, with the entire metro area having about 1.3 million. Of that, 63.34% are black or African American. Number 4, Birmingham, Alabama. Another historic southern city, Birmingham. As a YouTuber, you get some pretty interesting emails and comments. One gentleman from the UK wanted to know why we named a city in the United States after Birmingham in the UK, because the one in the UK sucks. He actually used some other weird word I never heard before. I'm not sure if it's a curse word, obscene, or what, so I'm just not going to use it. Anyway, so he said Birmingham in the UK sucks, and it just shows how stupid Americans are that they would do that. I had to inform him this didn't happen last week. The town's been there since the 1800s. He responded with, maybe you could pick a better name. Then he put in parentheses, doubt it. I responded with, maybe you could find a dentist. And in parentheses I put, do you have them there? Birmingham, Alabama has a population of 200,000 residents. Their metro area has 1.1 million. And of that, 69.82% are black or African American. Number 3, Gary, Indiana. Gary, Indiana was a really great place to live back in the 1950s. Well, maybe not, but at least they had a lot of jobs and people were making money. Like so many other Rust Belt cities, this one kind of fell to the wayside. All the good jobs left and the middle class kind of bailed out. Gary, Indiana is really in the Chicago metro area. And it's almost like it's part of Chicago. Not even part of the good side of Chicago, it's part of the south side of Chicago. But at least they got a Hard Rock casino. Gary, Indiana has been losing people since the 1950s. In the 1960 census, they actually gained 33%. And in 1970, they lost 1.6. And that was the last time they lost under double digits. Since then, they've been losing 13, 23, 11%, 21%, 13%. The good news is it's a very inexpensive place to live. You'd think they'd put a little more effort into turning this town around. It's right there on the lake, so that's a plus. You're not in Chicago, that's another plus. Gary, Indiana has a population of 69,000. Now, at their peak in the late 1950s, they had 179,000. They've lost 110 people. Now, if a city loses population for 1 or 2 census, that's really bad. Most cities can turn it around by then. Gary's got their own agenda. Of that 69,000 people still living in Gary, Indiana, 78.47% are black or African American. Number 2, Detroit, Michigan. We've talked about Detroit so many times before. They're a lot like Gary, Indiana. When the automobile industry and a lot of manufacturing jobs left and went overseas, the Rust Belt cities died. And Detroit, Gary are perfect examples of that. Cleveland's another one, they didn't make the list. On a positive note, in the last handful of years, Detroit's turned their downtown around a little bit. It looks a lot better than it did, let's say, 15 years ago. Now they need to spread that out to the suburbs a little bit, or at least just the neighborhoods around downtown Detroit. Detroit has a population of 632,000 residents, with the entire metro area being about 4.3 million. Of that, 80.38% of Detroit, Michigan's population is black or African American. Alright, before we get to number 1, don't forget we have another channel called On This Day. There's a link down below. We'd love it if you went over there and watched some videos and subscribed. Alright, on to number 1. And number 1, Jackson, Mississippi. Yes, that jewel of the South. I'm totally kidding. Nobody's ever called it a jewel of the South. I feel bad about making fun of them, because they just had some serious flooding and did some serious damage to that city. Now, Jackson's a city that has seen better times. From what I have learned about this city, it wouldn't take much for them to turn it around. They need to bring in a good employer, or 3, which could be handled with great tax incentives, maybe even free land. Get more jobs in the Jackson area and crack down on the crime. Those are really the only problems they have there. It's not like they have blizzards or anything like that. It gets hot during the summer, and they got your typical southern humidity then. Also, that kind of sucks, but it's not like they get blizzards or snowstorms. They've seen a few hurricanes, but it doesn't happen all the time. There's a lot of pluses when it comes to Jackson, Mississippi. It's just nobody's working towards making anything happen. I don't blame the people for that. I blame the politicians. 100%. Jackson, Mississippi has a population of 153,000 residents, with the entire metro area only being 576,000. So it's not like if they're going to turn this city around, they're not trying to turn it around for 2 million people, you know? Of Jackson's 153,000 residents, 80.45% are black or African American. Alright, that's today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you got some information about it. Now go out, have a great day.
Very interesting about that. Now he got it. What he was talking about was the black estates. Let's go to that video. Hear that video. Yeah. I have to do another too, because there's another channel that covered African Americans too. But I'm probably won't be able to do it on this one, but on my next video.
It is time to do the most requested video I get, at least over the last 6 or 7 months. That's right, if you're one of the many people that have asked me to do the states with the most black or African American residents, today is your day. Like I said in the last video in this series, a few months ago I caved to public pressure. I normally avoid race-related videos, but I had so many requests, I figure I might as well. I'm not comfortable with the subject, and I didn't want to create a video that would have a comment section with racist comments and people crying that I'm being a racist for talking about race. Talking about someone's race does not make you a racist. How you talk about someone's race could make you a racist. I had a long email back and forth with one of our subscribers who happens to be a black gentleman, and he had a good point. He said, if you're any kind of minority in this country, you already know who's out there. And then he quoted me. He said, you could make a video about lime jello and someone would turn it into some hate or something political. He had a point, so I decided to do this series. This is the 4th video in the series. We've done videos for Asian states, Hispanic states, and the whitest states. And stop typing. Yes, I'm doing the blackest states last. Like I said before, this is an uncomfortable subject for me, mainly because I'm very white. I'm so white I have 3 different types of mayonnaise in my refrigerator right now, and I have 2 different friends named Blaine. Got it? Get it? Good. Let's take a look. Number 10, Tennessee. Before we get started, I'm going to tell you up front, this is a tour of the southern states for the most part. If you had any thoughts Idaho or Alaska were going to be on this list, I'm sorry to disappoint you. I read a tourism book one time about Tennessee, and one of the quotes in there I remember, they said, if you want to experience black America, you need to eat some fried catfish in Tennessee. The towns in Tennessee that have the highest percentage of black residents would be Denmark, Tennessee, with 74.64% of their population, Grand Junction, Tennessee, with 72%, Stanton with 62%, Brownsville with 53%, and Whitesville, that's unfortunate, with 52.76%. Overall, at the 2020 census, Tennessee had a black population that took up 17.8% of the population. That came out to about 1.4 million black residents in Tennessee. Number 9, Virginia. This is another one that should be no shocker to anyone. The black culture and history is strong in Virginia. Virginia is home to the longest continuous experience of black life and culture in the United States, spanning more than 4 centuries. Some of the towns in Virginia with the highest percentage of black residents, the first one It's a small town, it's only got 400 people, but I'm going to put it on here just because I love the name of this town. Hustle, Virginia, 78.5% of that town is black or African American. Freeman, Virginia has 72.18%. Bird's Nest, Virginia has 67%. And Waverly, Virginia with 67.24%. Overall, 18.6% of Virginia's residents are black, giving them a population of about 1,600,000. Number 8, North Carolina. Yes, in case you don't know, North Carolina is a southern state, even though it's got the word north in it. I've had this discussion with people before. They seem to think it's not considered a northern state. I don't know where they're getting their education from, but I grew up on the other side of the country, and I knew North Carolina was a southern state. If you want to do something interesting and learn about black history, in North Carolina you can go to the Airborne and Special Operations Museum in Fayetteville. That's where Fort Bragg is. This historically all-black airborne unit was activated during World War II and officially served from 1942 to 1950. A lot of the veterans from this unit served in the Korean War as well. The cities with the highest African American population in North Carolina would be Gettysburg with 86.32%, Lewiston Woodville with 83.43%, Enfield with 81.90%, and Scotland Neck with 72%. Now there's a whole bunch of other ones in between there that they've only got like 150 people in the town, so I ignored those. Overall, North Carolina's black population is 22.5% of the state's population. That's about 2.5 million black residents.
Whoops. Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm about to cut this video short because I was trying to get to the other video, but
2.5% of the state's population. That's about 2.5 million black residents.
I've got a massive opportunity for you to make money doing something that is simple to run with no custom.
too many doggone commercials.
Number 7, Delaware. Yes, mind blown. Anyone else see this one coming? I mean, this one actually beat North Carolina. This is surprising. Delaware has a few cities, but their main metro area is Wilmington, and that is where a majority of their population lives. Not just the black population, the entire population. Delaware has a strange history when it comes to their African American population. Delaware prides itself on being the first state to ratify the Constitution, but they were one of the last to ratify the 13th Amendment outlawing slavery. But these days in Wilmington, if you want to learn about black history and heritage, you can go to the Delaware History Museum and Mitchell Center for African American Heritage. That's in Wilmington. It's on Market Street. Does every city have a Market Street? I think they do. I don't think I've ever been to a big city that doesn't have it. I know it has to do with the old days and that's where all the markets were, but yeah, I don't think I know of a city that doesn't have a Market Street, a major city at least. Now overall, most of their cities don't have a really high percentage of the population being African American. Their highest percentages are Ellendale, Delaware, which is 38.88%, Bridgeville, which is 30.51%, Newcastle, which is 29.62%, Dover is 29.21%. Overall, Delaware's black population is 24.1% of the total population, meaning they have about 318,000 African American residents. Number 6, Alabama. On history alone, I thought Alabama would have been number 1 or 2. I mean, the civil rights movement basically kicked off in Alabama. You have Rosa Parks, the Montgomery bus boycott, the Tuskegee Airmen. You don't have to be a history buff, but if you want to read some interesting stuff, read about the Tuskegee Airmen. It's an amazing story of these men. Towns with the highest percentage of African Americans, well, there's Tuskegee Institute. They've got about 5,600 people living there, and about 95.2% of them are African American or black. Tuskegee, Alabama, the town, has about 11,000 people, and 90% of them are black or African American. And then Fairfield, Alabama has 12,000 residents, almost 13, and they've got 89.64% African American. Overall, 26.8% of Alabama's population is African American. That comes out to about 1.6 million residents. Number 5, South Carolina. Yeah, I could see South Carolina being here. South Carolina has a few interesting things when it comes to Black history, including in 1708, South Carolina became the first British North American colony to have an African American majority. South Carolina also played a big part when it comes to the civil rights movement in the 1950s and 60s. They had a lot of non-violent protests against unfair segregation laws, but most of the attention back then went to Alabama and Mississippi. The towns with the highest population of African Americans in South Carolina go like this. Gadsden, South Carolina has 94.99%. Salter, South Carolina is 88.6%. And Denmark, South Carolina has 81.96%. Overall, South Carolina's black population is 27% of the total population of the state of South Carolina, getting them to about 1.6 million residents that are African American or black. Number 4, Maryland. This is a surprise. I really thought Alabama would have a higher percentage of African Americans than Maryland. I also thought Arkansas would be on this list, but it's not even close. They've got a lot of different African American history places you could visit in Maryland. Point Lookout State Park and Civil War Museum, Port Tobacco Courthouse, historic plantations, Old Jail at St. Mary's County, Jefferson Patterson Park and Museum, and the Drayton African American Schoolhouse. When it comes to cities with the highest population of African Americans, you have like Capitol Heights, Maryland, which has 41,000 residents. 93.9% of them are African American. District Heights, 89%. Suitland, 87%. And Temple Hill with 85.38%. Overall, 32% of Maryland's population is black or African American, putting them at about 2.2 million residents. Number 3, Georgia. This one is not a surprise. I could see this one easily. And I'm not even a historian, I just like to read. Georgia has a long history when it comes to the African American community. Sadly, most of it's not good history. Slavery, segregation, Jim Crow laws, all that stuff was really big in states like Georgia. But you also have some really nice things like the music that has come out of Georgia, the artists that have gone from everything rap, hip-hop, rock and roll, jazz, blues, and then there's the food. It's amazing. Towns with the highest percentage of black residents in Georgia start off with Lithonia, Georgia, and they have 75.32%. That's a good-sized town. That's 82,000 people. Stone Mountain with 70.18%. Decatur with 69.61%. Overall, Georgia's African-American population makes up 33% of the total population, giving them about 3.5 million residents.
Whatever your table.
I'm gonna stop it right here because the counter is going down. I was trying to get it. I'm going to make an hour of it, but I want to salute to the black people across the United States. I want to salute you, black men and black women, for doing what you do and coming through what you come through. And I pray that whatever the injustice, what I heard in the other videos, done in each city and each state, and what lineage in your parents, what happened in New York, whether it happened in Philadelphia, wherever the black people got lynched and beat, I pray that you get the reparation that you deserve. Your lineage does, as well as my lineage. But I want to salute to the black Americans, because you are the true patriot, true back soul of it. And I want the other nations that hear this video to see that's who we are. That's who we are. And they don't tell you all the things and that's just a quarter of it that I just showed you. And that black Americans deserve a lot of respect because of what we've been through as a nation on this soil. So anybody that watches this video from a different part of the world, put some respect on it when it comes to black Americans, no matter what city, what state you go through, because we've been through it, and we're going to come back up. And that's it, because it was black Americans that moved the whole economy, but they don't want to talk about that in history. So that's why I'm glad that this video was pointed out. But I'm going to go ahead and cut this video short. Sorry to make this kind of long, but I just wanted to give it. I'm going to do another one on this. But you guys have a good day or get even where you at, and keep your head up. God's gonna get you what the enemy has stolen from you in this country for hundreds and thousands of years, hundreds of years. We're getting it back. Just hang on a little longer. They can't deny it. If they do, they know what's coming. Good day.